is a huge honor for me today to be interviewing Matt Costa, who has 4,000 posts on Dental Town. I don't think there's a townie out there who's not a big fan of you. Thank you so much for giving me an hour of your time today. What makes a guy like you share so much on Dental Town? I mean, because when you look at the data, 99% just either ask a question or lurk. And then there's guys like you who share 4,000 times. What do you think it is in your makeup, your constitution, your personality that makes you do that? Is it more being fearless or?
Yeah, probably, I don't know, part of it. I think a lot of it is just kind of paying it forward. I mean, when I got on Dental Town about 6 years ago or so, there was guys doing the same thing, and that's how I learned so much. So I think it's just kind of a way of giving back and keeping the cycle going. People out there graduating kind of need this information, and someone's got to keep doing it. So it's just a way to do that.
Well, I'm a huge fan of you and your posts and all that. So, you practice in Quarryville, Pennsylvania. You were saying that was in Lancaster County?
Yes, correct.
So is that closer to Philadelphia or Pittsburgh?
It's a little bit closer to Philadelphia, about an hour and a half west of Philadelphia.
So then everyone wants to know, are you an Eagles fan in Philadelphia, or are you a Steelers fan from Pittsburgh?
Unfortunately, I'm a Philadelphia sports fan.
Oh, man, I can't believe you're an Eagles fan after last night's Monday Night Football game. That was a wild game.
It's a good game.
That was a wild game. In fact, they won it in like 5 seconds to go?
No time left, actually.
There was no time left when they won?
Yeah.
Oh, God, that was a crazy game. So you practice with an emphasis on microscope-enhanced aesthetic restorative dentistry, surgery, and endodontics. I want to talk about that because you graduated in 2008. I came out in 87, and the big thing then was that in 87 that you're going to be a lot better dentist if you got these 2.5x loops, and it turned out to be true. Yeah. And then that went from 2.5 to 3.5 and 4.8. And now it's like, forget that. It's like, let's do a microscope. You're using microscopes now for what?
For 100% of my dentistry. For
oh my God.
Dentistry, endodontics, oral surgery, basically anything. Exams.
So how many do you wheel it from room to room, or do you got this hanging in the ceiling?
I have them hanging in the ceilings. I have 2 of them.
So you work out of 2 rooms, and each room has a microscope mounted on the ceiling. What kind did you go with?
I actually bought Globals.
Globals, and they're what, out of Kansas City or St. Louis?
Yeah, Michigan or Missouri or something like that. I think Michigan.
It's Globals out of Michigan.
Yeah, don't quote me on that.
Don't quote you on that. And how long have you had these? Did you buy them the same time?
No, I bought one about 2 years ago. Was about when I bought the first one, and then 6 months later, I actually adapted pretty well to working with it, so I just decided to buy the second one because I didn't want to keep working out of one room. So
and that has always been a buy signal for me in dentistry, is the repeat business. I remember when I got out of school, they came out with this Indy YAG laser, and it's $50,000, and they sold like 1,000 and then went under. But the one thing I noticed after sales of like 200 or 300 or 400 is that nobody was coming back getting another one. And then you look at things like this where like those take-home sleep devices, like a dentist will buy one, a Stat DDS, and then sure enough, you come back a year later and he owns 3 of them. And you got a global microscope hanging on the ceiling, and within how long did it take you to get the second one?
6 months.
6 months, and you bought a second one. And how much were these?
The first one was, I think, $27,000. The second one was about $19,000. I cut out a lot of the extra stuff on the second one because I didn't find that it was completely necessary to have. So I just kind of bought a little bit more of a stripped down version to make it more affordable.
And are you, generally speaking, what is the magnification you're working with? I mean, how many times?
In the scope, it's like 6x.
So you're basically doing 6x.
Yeah.
That's what you spend most of your time on?
Most of it, yeah, the majority of it, yeah.
And I also know some of the dentists now. You're a younger person. How old are you?
I'm 33.
Yeah, you're so I'm old enough to be your dad at 53. But people my age, I can give you lots of names of people my age doing this because they trashed their neck, their back, and they can't lean forward anymore. So they had to buy a $27,000 microscope by Global hanging on the ceiling just because they have to sit up straight and look ahead.
Yeah.
So do you was ergonomics anything to do with this, or for you
Yeah.
at 33, or was it just magnification?
No, absolutely. Ergonomics was what pushed me over the edge, and it was neck pain.
Really?
I started going up in loop sizes. So by the time I get to 6X with a headlight on there, it got rather heavy. And then so starting to have cervical issues and stuff like that. So I found that between the pain that I was having with my neck and wanting more magnification, it was kind of, the choice was already made for me. So I just decided that I might as well jump in while I'm adaptable rather than trying to make that transition when I'm in my 50s and already having pain and, used to practicing dentistry a certain way. It'd be a little bit easier just to go in and do it now.
Yeah, I used to get mad at my instructors in dental school because they made us wear gloves freshman and sophomore year on a model. And we're like, well, and they said, we don't want you to ever get used to touching these instruments without gloves on because it's really going to throw you off when you're working on a patient. All of a sudden, you got this glove on for the first time.
See that.
So you think the dentistry was giving you cervical issues, or do you think it was the weight of the loops and the light on your head?
It was a combination of the weight, and I wasn't really practicing in an ergonomic position. I had the tendency to lean more with the loops on. So I think with time and basically over that, it ended up causing me pain.
Every lab man I know who's been doing it for more than 10 years, when they look at a full mouth reconstruction, you hand them the model, they can tell you if the dentist is right-handed or left-handed and which way his head's hanging.
Which way they lean.
Yeah. So we're all leaning, Yeah. So you're, what position are you on this patient? Are you 12 o'clock behind him or
12 o'clock? Yeah.
So the head's right in your lap.
Yep.
Right
in
looking
my lap.
right down the middle.
Correct. Looking straight out, like you said, it's pretty comfortable. Chair has an armrest on it, so I'm just kind of sitting there statically and very comfortable.
And did you have the same dental assistant before microscope and after? I mean,
yes.
The same one. That kind of changes her world.
Yeah, she hates it. She absolutely hates it. It's completely in her way.
Right, right.
But at the end, in reality, I mean, if I'm laid up in the hospital with a cervical fusion, she's not working anyway. So I think she'll take the trade-off of having me healthy and being able to work than having a crippled dentist that, puts her unemployed. My
favorite joke with my assistant, Jen, I've had the same assistant for 28 years. I always, whenever the Schein lady walks in, Valerie, I say, yeah, you guys sell CAD cams and Microsoft. When are you going to start selling droids to replace Jan? And she just laughs. I call her, sometimes I call her all the names of the Star Wars, the C3PO or CP3O or whatever the heck. But so do you think it's increased your quality?
I think it has. Actually, what I think it did was I think it shortened my learning curve more than anything. Things that would traditionally take dentists years worth of experience to get used to seeing, preps, looking at models, looking at things come back from labs. I'm kind of able to see it blown up very easily with the scope. So I think that helps a lot more. Not necessarily making you, better, but I think it definitely helps with the curve.
Well, Stevie Wonder would be making horrible, crown preps. And everybody knows that you go from naked eye to 2X or 2.8 or whatever. I mean, I just think seeing is believing. I was talking to an endodontist the other day from Canada, and I was saying, what are the keys to successful endodontics? And first thing out of his mouth was loops, magnification, anything to see better. Talk about the light of the microscope. You're seeing it 6X better, but there's more light too. Yeah,
the newer ones have LED lights. They're extremely bright. You need more brightness as you go up in the levels of magnification, so typically you won't need a whole lot. At 6X, it's about 25% of the way, 50% of the way up, but is remarkably bright. I mean, it is very, very well lit, and I think that's equally as important as the magnification, is having the light just shining everywhere where you're working. These are very easy to see.
And how far down can you see in a canal when you're doing endo?
That varies. It depends on how straight the canal is. But, typically you can get, if in a straight canal, and then a central incisor with a wide open canal, you can see straight to the apex. Molars, not so much. I mean, you can see, the coronal third of it, maybe, at least for me anyway. I mean, I'm sure an endodontist can probably see more if he's positioning it properly.
So seeing is believing. So the other big question, did you find it slowed you down?
No, I think it sped me up more than anything, because you're not constantly stopping and trying to reassess things. I mean, basically, you're able to process information visually. And so it allows you to just kind of rapidly move through your progression. So if anything, I think that it got me a little bit faster, which would, it's definitely counterintuitive to what you would think.
I think if I had to go back and look at my all the time I've spent with CIRAC CAD CAM,
Mm-hmm.
I still would say that 90% of the overall positive everything I associate with that thing is seeing my preps 40 times bigger.
Yeah, it's
humbling.
humbling.
It is so humbling, and seeing is everything.
Yeah.
Seeing is everything. I remember asking, would you rather lose your eyesight or your hearing? Or your tactile sense in your fingers. To see that prep and you think, wow, and to look down in the canal and just seeing is just, it's just damn near everything.
Yeah.
So do you use it during surgery?
Yeah. Believe it or not, we use it during surgery as well.
What kind of surgeries?
We do a lot of surgery in our office. Extractions, obviously. We do implant surgeries. We do periodontal surgeries. Do some apicoectomies, things like that. So pretty much routinely using it. Sectioning teeth. It's very, very helpful. Root tips.
And do you do all your surgeries sitting down, or do you do them stand up?
Oh, all of it sitting down, yeah. I'm very lazy, so I like to be sitting down and not straining at all.
Huh. That is I don't know why I have to, but I always stand up during surgery, and I always sit down during restorative. And
my partner does that too. He likes standing up for extractions and stuff, but I think it's whatever works best for you.
It's just whatever you got used to.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, just however you started out. So you graduated in 2008, right?
Yeah, that was a great time to graduate as a dentist.
Same year as Corey Glenn.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, 2008. So you're young enough. Your experience you're in that sweet spot where I'm afraid guys my age might not be able to connect with the recent grads, but let's switch to new grads because. I look at guys like you and Corey Glenn that just came out of the gate and got so far so fast, and you're just like, half the dentists in America will never be as accomplished as you two, and you guys just got out in 2008. In just a little 8 to 15, you guys are just amazing. So flip that around. What advice would you give to these kids? You can place implants, you can do apico, you're using a microscope. How did you get out of school and start on this path so that just 8 years out you can do an apicoectomy, do surgeries, place implants? What was different about your journey?
Well, this is the point where I would have to plug Dentaltown for you, so you can smile a little bit there. I owe a lot of it basically to Dentaltown. It plugged me into more information than I ever knew was out there, and would have taken me decades to accumulate that kind of continuing education. But I had access to it round the clock, so if I'm sitting at home, just pop on the computer while I'm watching TV, I can go through threads about anything, surgery, endo, restorative stuff, practice management, you name it. It was all there. Everything was chronicled, dialogue. So it was really good, and it was really helpful. I just poured through the threads, and it was the best part about that for me was as a new grad, it was free. So it didn't take anything, other than my time to sit down and go through it. Outside of that, it was just being willing to sit there and go through it and spend the time on it. It was great.
And how many points did the Eagles have to be losing by to when you would just switch to Dentaltown? What was the point mark where you say, okay, it's time to switch to Dentaltown?
Well, I casually divide my attention between it. I'll mute the Eagles and then watch Dental and pay more attention to what I'm reading on Dentaltown. But
what's funny is when they came out with the Dentaltown app, I forgot that I hated commercials. Like you'd be watching something like commercial. Now when a commercial pops up, I'm like, oh cool, and I just pick out my iPhone and hit Dentaltown and start reading a thread. Then all of a sudden I realized, oh no, it's back. The TV's back, and you got to put it down. So now I could care less about commercials anymore. So explain it. So there's 2 million dentists around the world, and we only have 200,000 on Dentaltown. So we only have 10% of them. And the neat thing about these podcasts on iTunes and YouTube is when I do an iTunes podcast, people are downloading it from every country on iTunes. So what would you say to a dentist in Africa, Asia, Latin America who's like saying, what is Dentaltown?
It's an online education forum. Basically I think that's what it is. And it's a way to connect to other dentists all over the world who are there for the same reasons, to discuss dentistry and to discuss our careers, more or less, and learn from each other.
Well, there's 53 forms. You know, there's root canals, fillings, crown. But did you find yourself when you had a school, like if you had like a problem, you'd like go to endo, or were you just reading today's active topics and were you all over the
Yeah, I
board?
mean, mostly I would go through today's active topics, and then, when I got through all of those, or I just wanted to see something different, I would go back into the different categories and spend some time just going through, the sticky endo tabs or the surgery ones or whatever. So just kind of slowly working my way through them one after the other. I probably read most of the threads on Dental Town I've probably been through.
So what other advice would you give to a new grad? Because I'm okay. Let me ask you a very specific question. They're asking me. They're
Yeah.
saying, Howard, I just graduated with $250 to $300,000 student loans.
Yeah.
You know, should I buy a practice that's $400,000, or should I go get a job at Heartland or Pacific Dental Care and take a job for a year or two or three and work some of the student loan debt down? That's their first crossroad. What would you say? How would you answer that?
I think it depends on the personality. I think I would have gotten myself into pretty big trouble if I bought a practice right out of school, just because, the cliche is that you don't know what you don't know. And I think that's really, really true in a lot of areas of dentistry, particularly with practice management. So I think that just going and learning the ropes on somebody else's watch, I think is really, really helpful. So, that would be my recommendation, is to just go get some experience wherever that may be, if it's private practice, if it's corporate, whatever. And you'll start to get a feel for the stuff in dentistry that you like to do and that you want to continue to do over your career.
So how long between your graduation in 2008 before you actually bought into your own practice? You said you have a partner?
Yeah, I'm in a group practice, so I have three partners actually.
So there's four of you in one deal.
Yes.
So how long between 2008 graduated and you signed the dotted line and became a partner?
That was 4 years.
4 years. And did you work for this group the whole 4 years?
Yes.
So you were an employee associate with them for 4 years.
Correct.
Then you pulled the trigger.
Yes.
And you agree that, and see, the other thing I don't understand is why a lot of people in Dental Town badmouth going and taking a job in corporate dentistry. I still don't know what corporate dentistry means, because
Right.
the CPAs tell me that pretty much every dentist is incorporated. Like, I'm sure your guys are incorporated.
Yeah.
But back in the day when I got out of school, people would sign up for the Navy for 4 years and go sit in a boat in the middle of the Pacific Ocean to get experience. And we all thought that was a great idea.
Mhm.
So the thing I like about corporate dentistry is you're not in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Right.
You're not away from land for 6 months. I don't care what city they're in, you're still on land. But you would say that. What about if the second most common question they're probably asking is, should I do a residency or should I get a job? What would you say to that?
I mean, same type of thing. I think it depends on the person. I think if you're comfortable and you feel like you're ready for your next step and you want to go, then go. But I even a lot of my classmates, they didn't feel quite ready and didn't want to go out into private practice, so they did residencies or GPRs, and I think that's fine. I think it's just whatever you think you need to do to prepare yourself to be, out in private practice. I think that's what you should do. I think there are a lot of advantages to it. There are some disadvantages to doing further education, but that's something that I think in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't set you back, or it doesn't alter your career all that much if you choose one over the other. I think either way is acceptable. You just got to figure out what's best for you.
So you worked in this group for 4 years, and now
Right.
you've been a partner for 4 years.
Mhm.
Okay, so I want to throw this one-liner at you. People say regarding partnership, they say, well, you get married to a woman, you have great sex, great kids, and that fails half the time. You just turned around and married 3 other dentists platonically. You have no sex glue holding you together. You have no children. You don't celebrate holidays. How does that work? What's the glue in holding 4 people together without kids and family and holidays?
I mean, I think it's just a common goal. It's a common philosophy. The practice has been in existence in the community for over 50 years. So it's basically a lifestyle for them, and that's kind of how it is for me as well. So you just go in and, everyone's working towards the same goals. We're helping each other out, and we're just trying to, to basically earn a living and serve the community and keep the practice going.
So how do you do things like you want 2 microscopes for your 2 rooms? What if the other 3 people, how many of them use microscopes?
None.
Okay, so that's a classic example. So then they're thinking, okay, dude, you bought a $27,000 Global 1, a $19,000 Global 2. do the other three guys have to kind of chip in on that too because you're one group, or how does that work?
Traditionally, yeah. Traditionally, all the equipment expenditures would be done as a group, but the scopes, that was the one thing that I specifically did separately because I wanted them so badly, and I didn't, knowing that they wouldn't use them at all, I didn't think it was really fair to have them cover, portions of the bill. So I bought those on my own, and then, figured I'm using them, they're mine, I own them, no big deal. If our partnership goes bad, then I can still take them off the ceiling and off I go. So, I wanted to get into it badly enough that it just didn't matter to me, so I did them on my own.
And when you said you do, they would never use them. Is that because they were old like me, or what
Yeah,
was that?
old like you. One of my partners is 63 now, and the other one's 59, so they're a little bit more established in their careers. So I just
And by established in their career means stuck in their old way, and Grandpa ain't ever going to change his mind.
more or less, dumping something like that on those guys. I just knew it wouldn't be an issue for them, and they'd have no interest in it. So I just figured, do it on my own. It's not a problem.
Well, it is so true. I mean, consultants, you always hear them talking about how they want these young kids to do this or that right out of the gate because everyone knows if they start with this other technique, you're never going to change. It's kind of like golf. Mm-hmm. You notice everybody who's a great golfer, like Tiger, started when they were like 5 years old.
Yeah.
And then, you start when you're in college, and, it's so much easier to learn something right the first time than to learn something less than ideal and try to change
definitely.
it. Yeah, and that's probably the truth about scopes.
Yeah, I think so. I think it helps a lot to get in, to at least get exposed to it, at a younger age. I think it's definitely helpful. I had some dental students up to the office over the weekend, and they were looking through them for the first time, and they were kind of amazed at what they were seeing. And I could tell they were like, "Oh, this would be cool. I could definitely work like that." And I think it helps because they don't have a lot of the biases that other dentists would that have been practicing for a while.
I'm gonna ask, since I'm 53 and you work with a 59-year-old and a 63-year-old, I'm gonna ask about this. A lot of people our age are now getting associates and partners of your age. Is there any blanket generalizations? There's a lot of books saying that they think different ways. I mean, you have to understand how a baby boomer thinks versus their parents versus the generation next and the millennials and do you think talking to guys my age, hiring guys like your age or younger out of school, do you think we see things differently just in life that we should know about? I mean, there's so many books and papers written on millennial thinking versus baby boomer thinking. Yeah,
I think you're opening a can of worms with this one.
Well, it is Dentistry Uncensored.
Yeah, it's I mean, I don't know if I'd stereotype any of that, but there's definitely a generational gap that makes it different. And I think even just the fact that you're at different stages in your careers is really what complicates it. I mean, most of the time these older docs are looking to get out of dentistry and to start looking forward to their life outside of it. And then for us, we're looking to come into it and start our careers. And so it's, they're opposing forces sometimes, and what's in the best interest of the older doc is not in the best interest of the younger one. So I think a lot of it's the issue with it is just that, it's just the two opposite directions.
Do you think there's a difference in work ethic? Sometimes you hear a lot of the older dentists screaming that, man, that kid, the minute it's 5 o'clock, he runs out the door and he thinks his generation had a higher work ethic. Do you see a difference in work ethic or not really?
No, not from generation to generation. I think that's something it's, regardless of how the age of the person. I think some people just tend to work harder and work longer than others, and I think that's just how it is.
Yeah. I do notice one variation in work ethic, though, but it's not age-related. It's just birth-related. I don't care what age of the game they are. If they weren't born in the United States, they work harder, longer, more hours. I mean, if they come here, if they were born in a very poor country, they don't blink at doing 7 to 7 Monday through Saturday.
Right.
They don't even see that as what? Am I working a lot? Really? How is that a lot? And you're just like,
no, we're definitely spoiled here. And I think that, especially for dentists in America, I mean, if you say that you're working 45, 50 hours a week, they think that's a ton of hours to be doing. Now, doing dentistry, it is, but I mean, in the grand scheme, working 50 hours a week is not all that much.
Well, 50 hours a week in Asia, they would think you were the owner. You know, they are retired. I mean, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone to Asia, and I mean the average work business hours is sun up to sundown, 6 days a week,
Yeah.
and then Sunday is your day to get your personal life clean and get all ready for the next. I mean, they just work sun up to sundown. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just unbelievable. What other advice would you give the kid? Oh, let me ask this. Okay, so they got out of school. They got to know they only know what they know. They don't know what they don't know. We both recommend they get some residencies, work in corporate America, join the Navy, be an associate. It doesn't matter. And so that now they finally they bought their practice. They opened their practice, and let's just say they're alone, and they're trying to pay down this $250,000 student loans, and they're looking at $150,000 CEREC CAD CAM or E4D from Plan Mecca. They're looking at $100,000 CBCT 3D X-ray. They're looking at a $75,000 BioLace. Address the big toys. What major purchases would you tell them to jump on?
None. I don't think they need to buy any of them. I don't think that those technologies are great, but they don't necessarily make you a better dentist at all. You can completely do without CAD CAM. You don't need lasers, at least in the beginning. If you need a cone beam for something, there's imaging centers that you can use. There's mobile centers. I just don't think that it's something that you necessarily need to go in to buy. I think it's foolish to get yourself into debt and to compromise your business long term and to add stress to your life. I think it's crazy. I think traditional dentistry, it still works. It's still great. And I think that's what I would focus on, as a young owner. That, if I didn't have access to partners that help me out a lot, that's really, I'd be doing a lot of just traditional stuff.
So you have 4 people to share an expensive toy.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you guys have any expensive toys? I mean, did you buy any of those?
We have a number of them. We have a CEREC OmniCam. We have diode lasers, and we have electric hand pieces. I have my scopes. We have stuff in the office, digital X-rays. So I mean, we're pretty well equipped considering the expense of some of this stuff.
But it works for you guys because you're sharing it 4 ways.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'm only paying for a quarter of any of that stuff.
Yeah, and that's what my healthcare economist friends, I went to ASU, their MBA program, and those PhDs in healthcare economics and all that, that's what they say drove group practice in medicine is that, when MRI machines were coming out and they cost $1 million, one guy can't buy one.
Right.
And that a lot of these toys like CAD CAM and lasers and CBCTs and all these big expensive toys is really what's driving group practice.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not Heartland and Pacific. It's not Steve Thorne and Rick Workman creating something out of thin air. What the underlying forces were.
Right.
What was that the overhead was going up higher and higher and higher, and
it's a mutualistic relationship. Everyone's, again, going back to that. We're all working towards a common goal, and we're all sharing, in that expense, and it helps us out. It defrays the cost over all of us. And it makes us more prepared. So
I want to talk more about the group practice dynamics and the fact that how do you do conflict resolution? What happens when so 163, 159, you're 33,
mm-hmm.
and how old's the fourth one?
37.
Okay, so there's 2 young ones, 2 old ones. So there's two dentists who have 2 associates that could be their kids. Is that other one of the kids of the older ones?
No.
So there's no relation in there.
No relationship.
Okay,
no.
So is it a straight Democratic vote if you have an issue and 3 say we're going right and 1 says left, everybody just shuts up and goes right? How do you do conflict resolution? What do you do when 4 partners don't agree?
Fortunately, we haven't really had a situation where we weren't in agreement. I think it is something that is somewhat democratic where we all have our own voices, but I mean, a lot of it is, and the reality, I defer a lot to the senior docs too, because they have so much more experience that a lot of the issues that get raised, I mean, I basically ask for their opinion right out of the gate. And, most of the time I'm willing to go with what they think is right because they usually are. So
you're humble and you trust them. So they've earned your trust and you're a humble guy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And that is and when you're dealing with dentists, physicians, and lawyers and CEOs of small and large businesses, everyone agrees that the one indicator that will predict who will be the most successful at the end is the humble guy. They'll listen to their employees, they'll listen to their customers, they'll listen to their stock, they listen. And the belligerent guy is always the one who goes off the cliff. In fact, when he's going off the cliff, no one's even going to tell him, because at that point, everybody's hoping he goes off the cliff. You know what I mean? So they're kind of like pointing to the cliff, like over here, over here. Amazing. That just seems like very special dynamics. And also, so you're in a small town of Quarryville.
Yeah.
What's the size of Quarryville?
Population is about 2,500. I mean, it's very, very small.
God, that is really small.
2 stoplights, and that's about it. You know, I mean, it's very, very small. A lot of farmland, a lot of Amish community near us, so it's a very small town.
So, what is it like going to an Amish dentist?
Am I the Amish dentist?
No. What is it like going to an Amish dentist with no electricity, no technology? What is that like?
I think that I don't know. I can only speculate that it wouldn't be too much fun.
I grew up in Kansas, and that actually, I think, technically has the largest Amish and Mennonite community in all of America. Have you heard that?
No, I haven't. I didn't. I know Pennsylvania and Ohio have pretty large communities, but I would believe it. Yeah.
Everything I read growing up in Kansas, we had the largest population. I mean, and it was amazing. And what I always found the most amazing about the Amish is their work ethic.
Yeah.
Holy crap! And when disaster would strike, like if a tornado would come and wipe out 10 barns, not one of them blinked. And at sunrise the next morning, they're all ready to go, sun up to sundown, 7 days. I mean, you just have to applaud their work ethic.
Yeah, that's why I try not to complain too much about the hours and I'm putting in at the office, because a lot of my patients are Amish, and they're outworking me by a long shot.
Oh my God, they work hard. So, is it fair to say in a town of 2,500, you really wouldn't have to market or advertise? I mean, how can you live in a town that small and not everyone know all the players and all the businesses in the town? I mean, do you guys do much marketing?
No, we really don't do a whole lot of marketing. Most of it's all internal and word of mouth stuff. And, there's a couple other offices in the area. But, basically it's just, we have enough patients and we show up to work, and we haven't had the need yet.
Now, were you born in that town? Born and raised?
No, I wasn't.
Where were you born and raised?
Just outside of Philadelphia.
So a suburb of Philly?
Yeah.
And now, how far away is Quarryville from Philly?
About an hour and a half.
So where I'm going at is, it's pretty obvious that about almost 2/3 of all the dentists go to the urban areas where half the people live in America in about 117 metros. And then only about 1/3 go to where the other half live in the 19,022 small towns. And if you just divide dentists by that one divider, everyone who goes rural makes more money than everyone that goes urban, because economics in 3 words is supply and demand. So my question to you is, are you married now?
Yes.
And was she from that small town? Was she from Philly?
She was from a different suburb of Philly. And then, we got married, and, obviously we went through dental school together. And
she's a dentist.
Well, she's a dental hygienist.
Dental hygienist?
Close. Yeah. And then, she had just about as enough of the city as I did. So we kind of figured we'd go to a little bit quieter area, a little bit more rural.
So she was kind of burned out on the big city.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So we kind of mutually agreed that we'd move somewhat out, and I was fortunate enough to find the office that I'm practicing in through a contact at Henry Schein and a practice transition consultant. So kind of just led me out there. And in the beginning, I was commuting, I was driving, which took about an hour. And basically we moved out closer now, so I'm about 25 minutes from my office now.
And that's why these podcasts have exploded, because what I picked off is the Hour Commute crowd. In fact, that's why they're now long. People ask me, well, why are they an hour? Why not 15 minutes, hour and a half? Because I asked them, and almost everyone told me they have an hour. Everybody that was listening to a podcast, whether it be Dental Hacks or Thriving Dentist Show or whatever, is saying, I have an hour commute every morning, every night, and I'm tired of talk radio, and you can only listen to, U2 and Pink Floyd so many times. And they just love this. So now your wife. So now you're you were an hour and a half out from Philly. So now you're an hour from Philly, and now you drive another half hour to your practice.
More or less.
And where's your wife work for hygiene?
She just temps in offices because we have young children. So she took a time off. Now she's just doing some temping.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And does she like the small town rural area?
She does, yeah. She likes the small community. She likes knowing people, and she hasn't complained yet. So I think I'm on the right track.
You found a non-complaining hygienist? No wonder you married her. She might have been the only one. You found the one non-complaining hygienist, so you thought, what the hell? I better just marry this one.
Don't bother looking. I got her.
I always like to ask hygienists, who's crazier, the dentist or the hygienist? And then go to a bar and ask 3 hygienists who's crazier, the hygienist or the dentist. They'll all tell stories till midnight, but the physicians are convinced it's the nurses, and the nurses are convinced it's the physicians. The hospital stories are even more batshit crazy because there's so many of them in the hospital. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So what other advice would you? So we both agree on so many things. They just got to go rural. I mean, and where I see the people that's going happiest to rural is they already got their personal life in order. A kid that comes out of dental school and he's Mormon LDS and he's already got a wife and 2 kids. He doesn't need Hollywood. He doesn't need he doesn't need the big nightlife. And he's at evening he's just going to be with his family anyway. And you'll point him to a small town of 2,500 people in the middle of Iowa, and they'll go out there and do $1 million the first year and take home 400. But his single friend who wants to find the girl and goes to North Scottsdale where there's a massive nightlife, restaurants and shops on every corner, and 3 dentists on every corner, and they do nothing. I mean, do you think in order to go rural, you have to have your love life in order? I mean, do you think you could have gone to the Quarryville and found the love of your life?
I don't see why not.
First of all, let's check. Is your wife ever going to be listening to this podcast?
Probably not.
Okay, she's probably not. Okay, so then tell the truth. Could a guy leave dental school in Kansas City or a big city and go to something like Quarryville single and still have a life? Yeah,
if I was single, I would have followed the same path. I think I would have went rural and just figured out a different way to have an enjoyable nightlife if that's what I was after. I don't think that it would have restricted me in any way, but I mean, I think having stress at the job, if I was living in the city with a good nightlife and being broke because I didn't have any patients to treat and, just not having a fulfilling career, I think that would have been much, much worse. So I think, if I was a bachelor, I would have done a small town too, no problem.
And if you couldn't have found a woman in that small town, would you have done a mail order bride from Russia or China?
Russia.
Okay. We'll put that in the notes. Gotta make, remember, it is Dentistry Uncensored. So what other advice would you give these young kids? We both agree rural. We both agree, what else?
I think just practice, find a place that you can go to work and be somewhat enjoyable about it. And then try to get a little bit better every day. Read what you can, go on downtown, learn what you can, and, just keep practicing.
I want you to go back to, you named that you found a consultant, a practice transition from Henry Schein, which is like one of the largest dental companies in the world. I mean, Schein, Patterson, Danaher, now the Dentsply Sirona merger. Talk about that. Might have flown over a lot of their heads. What were you talking about, Henry Schein? How did you? That
was an interesting scenario for me because it was actually my senior year in dental school. We had a lecture from a transition consultant who was talking about how we would go about finding associates and things like that. And so at the end of the class, I went up to her because she had been working in the area. So I asked her if she knew of any practice, and she just so happened to know about the office that I am currently in. So she said, well, give me your CV and I'll pass the information on. And that's kind of how it works. It was, pretty fortunate circumstance that led me to that one. But, there are consultants that specialize in job placement and transitioning practices.
And Henry Schein has this department. Henry Schein, do you know what it's called? Do you remember?
Not off the top of my head, no.
But just go to the Henry Schein and the Henry Schein Practice Transition Consultants.
Yeah,
and they could go to the
design for that.
Yeah, I love their CEO, Stan Bergman, and the reason I love their CEO is twice I've been on some charity dentistry out in the middle of Timbuktu, out in the middle of nowhere, and you're literally in the jungle, and then out of nowhere, here's this little building completely equipped with 6 operatories like I was in your office or you were in mine, with this little bitty sign donated by Henry Schein. You know what I mean? I mean, Stan Bergman he's a saint. I mean, he is. I worked in an orphanage in Africa, and he completely decked the thing out. And I'm just like, Why here? Why, who did this? Why, how does this even happen? But Stan the Man Bergman, he is an amazing man. He definitely gives back. So when you're a young dental student and you're out there and this Henry Schein practice transition specialist gives you three names, knowing what you know now, when they're interviewing the dentist, I mean, they probably think they're trying to get a job. They're hoping that the associate hires them. But whoa, maybe you don't want to work for them. What would you say the red flags are for this dentist? Just because someone hires you doesn't mean you want the job. What should these young dental graduates be thinking about when they're applying at an office?
I think that you need to be considering the ethics of the office and how treatment plans are going to be getting set up, what types of things you're going to be asked to do. At the end of the day, it's going to be your license, but you need to get a feel for just how the office is going to flow and how they're going to treat you as a dentist, or a doctor. If you're just going to be there to produce for them, then that's one you need to run from. Obviously, if you're going to have a little bit more latitude with some of your treatments, and it's probably not going to be a bad scenario for you to be involved with.
So be more specific. So you're saying that, did I just hear you say that if they do the diagnosis and treatment plan and you're set out to do the production, that's what you run from? Is that what you said? And then if you have more say over the treatment plan?
Yeah, I think.
What do you mean by that? Because I know how does a young dentist, she's 23 years old, she walks in the office, she sits down there, how does she figure out if Howard and Matt are ethical or unethical?
That's tricky. You usually don't know that until you're already working there. So it's something that, you kind of learn on the job. But I think that one question I would ask would be if something was in my schedule, a procedure for me to do, if I didn't feel comfortable doing it, how's that going to fly with the management? Is that going to be something that's acceptable to them? Or is that going to be an issue that I'm not following the laid out procedures? I think the right thing to do is if you're not comfortable doing a procedure, you should always have the option to not do it. And I think that's important. So that would be, I think, my big hang up. And that would be probably the first question I would ask.
And a lot of these, lot of the early, these corporate dentistry chains have changed business models a lot. When I got out of school, what they would do is they would find the most aggressive treatment planning dentists to do all the new patient exams and all the hygiene exams. Mm-hmm. Then all the shy, quiet, zero personality dentists doing the drill, fill, and bill, and they were all sitting back there doing dentistry that they didn't agree with the treatment plan at all. And right. It caused them mental anguish. Yeah. And as soon as they could find another job, they went. So that business model I've seen is for the most part destroyed. You almost don't see that business model anymore. But but my red flag, my best red flag is to go around the office, and just ask how many times has the dentist been married, and then go around and ask each staff member how long they've been there. Because by the time the dentist has been married 4 times and no staff has been there more than 2 years, he needs to be taken to the vet and just be put down. And that's why in-office consulting is so horrible, because all the people that would benefit from a consultant think they can't afford it, so they don't buy one. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of the consultants that go in there, the dentist is, blaming Obama and the economy and and just blaming everybody, and everybody's just looking at this dentist like, well, you're a nut job, and the consultant really needs to be a Dr. Phil. So it's just so bizarre that everybody who has $1 million practice, $1 million collection, taking home 300,000 or 400,000 is always hiring consultants. Mm-hmm. And then the dentist that's doing $250 and doesn't know what they're doing. And if they just hired any consultant who's been in the biz for 10 or 20 or 30 years, someone like Sandy Pardue could just mm-hmm. double their office overnight. And they'll look at that and say, well, that costs money. And it's like, crazy. So so find out how many times has the dentist been married and how long is your average staff in there. And when you go around an office and you meet really nice, warm people, and they've been there 10, 20, 30 years, mm-hmm. that's the story right there. Yeah,
that's pretty telling. That's the case when I got to my office. Some staff members, 20 plus years, most of them 19, 17, across the board, they're lifers. They've been there forever. So that's pretty telling of the kind of docs that they're working for.
Yeah, but there is some special circumstance with an asterisk. If one girl, if you're in a small office, like say it's a doctor and one girl that's been there 20, and mm-hmm. then no one else has been there too, she's the psycho that runs everyone off, and she's usually either sleeping with the dentist or embezzling with the dentist or treats the dentist like God, and then the minute he's gone, turns into Godzilla with the staff. So that's a red flag there. So you place implants.
Yeah.
How do you go from address this concern? Well, I graduated from XYZ Dental School and I never learned how to place an implant. How am I going to go from I've never placed an implant to Matt, who's places implants? How do you go from never to doing it?
You gotta take a continuum of some kind usually.
Did you do a continuum?
Yeah, I did. I did one through Hyena, which was decent. It's a company, but they were based out of Philadelphia. So for me, that was very convenient as far as travel wise goes, because I did it when I was relatively a new grad. So costs were a concern for me, obviously. But just getting educated on it, and usually there's a number of them out there that you can do. But I think that's step one, is just going and learning about it a lot more.
Now, Hyena, that's a Korean company, though, right?
Yeah, it is.
You said they're out of where?
They're out of Philadelphia, just outside of Philadelphia.
Is their U.S. headquarters?
Yeah, and they have a distributing branch there. Yeah.
Yeah, and Gordon's big on that.
Yeah.
Is he? Yeah, he lectures for them all the time. So spell Hyena.
Yeah.
Spell it.
HIOSSEN.
And why did you pick that? Was it the training in this? Was it price? Was it convenience?
Yeah, they had it. It was actually because of a doc that I met at another CE course. He was on faculty there, and through that course, I had come to respect him, and I just asked if he had any suggestions because I was interested in it. And he let me know. He's like, I'm on faculty at Hyena, and it's a good course. You can come do it, and we do a live surgery and stuff like that. So I ended up taking that, and I was pretty pleased with it. It got me enough to get started.
And how long was that continuum? How many times did you have to go there?
It was several weekends. I think it was 4 weekends or something spread out over a couple months.
And of your 4 dentists in your practice, how many of them surgically place implants?
I do probably 99% of them. My other partner will place some of the simpler ones that he feels comfortable doing.
So that's neat. So you have a referral base. It's in your own practice.
Yeah, pretty much.
Is this a big part of your practice?
Yeah, surgery is. Yeah,
surgery is, and so this is another thing I don't know how to answer when a young kid will come up to me and they'll say their practice is flat, and they basically do cleanings, exams, fillings, single crowns, CEREC, whatever, and then I see that they're for endo and surgery and implants is zeros, and then I don't know if this is a generation gap or what is, and I'll say, well, you need to do endo, and they say, well, I don't like blood, I don't want any blood or surgery. And I'm always thinking, well, how the hell did you pick dentistry?
Yeah.
I mean, shouldn't you be an electrical engineer working on my iPhone? I mean, so I don't believe it. Do you think they obviously wanted to be a doctor and all doctors do surgery and they just got scared? And can that be psychologically turned around? Or do you think someone really signed up for med school or dental school and didn't want to touch a human body or see one bleed?
I can't imagine that someone would go in thinking that they wouldn't be coming across blood or bodily fluids of some kind. I mean, that'd be pretty bizarre to me, especially, dentists were up to our elbows in spit and blood, and hopefully that's it, but you never know.
And it's tough when you're bald because you can actually see the blood spots on your head when you come home. With your hair, you just don't know what's in there. But when you're bald, you come home and you're like, oh my God, there's blood on my head.
Yeah, it uses his volumizer.
So do you think that can be turned around, or do you think?
I do. I think that's probably a comfort thing, and just a matter of desensitizing yourself to it, seeing it enough and doing it enough. Eventually, you'll get used to it. I mean, human beings can get used to pretty much anything. So I think a lot of it's just overcoming those initial fears and just getting into doing at least some degree. Doing some of it.
So you say you picked Hyena because it was referred by one of the faculty continuum.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me all the implant research people say titanium, titanium, titanium. There's no osteocytes. You really cares if the titanium is made by Nike or Reebok or whatever. So it sounds like you picked your implant company from an instructor of the training program.
Mm-hmm.
So do they have a rep in your area? Do you have a human relationship like a rep, or do you deal with these people mostly online?
Yeah, they have reps. They have local reps. I don't deal with them too often. At this point now, when I need to place orders and stuff like that, I just email them in and say process these and ship them out to me. And that's usually pretty adequate. At this point, we have a comfort level with ordering parts that we really don't need a rep to come out and hold our hand. So we don't need the kind of contact that they can offer. But
and where is Hyacinth's training facility?
I think they do several throughout the country. There is one in Philadelphia in Jenkintown.
In Jenkintown, and that's where you went to school, and you're only an hour away. So
yeah, I was pretty close. So it was convenient for me. I think they do them in California. I know, pretty much all over the country.
So their training facility was it at their actual building, or did they just have a dentist, oral surgeon?
No, I think they rented a space, like a conference center, and they did their lectures and stuff out of that. And then when it came time to do the surgical components, we went to one of the faculty's offices, and we had our patients go there.
Because I'm always trying to separate the wheat from the chaff of what makes guys and gals more successful than others and getting it done. It seems like with a rep, like say it's like Tarun, he uses Tarun Agrawal. He's the most expensive one, no BioCare, but he doesn't care about that. He's in love with the rep, and the rep is what's getting it all done. Yeah. And it seems like the people that are getting it done. People that sit there and say, "Oh yeah, I place them, I do them," and in your case, in a group practice, you do 99% of all the implants for 4 doctors. They always have some human connection. Here was a teacher. It was only an hour away. It was where you went to dental school or born and raised or whatever. But there seems to be a human component, and I think the imaginary mind, they want to go online and save money and buy some implants made in Russia or Israel or Istanbul, and they're saving money, but it just never seems to take off. They just never become implantologists. And I think social animals need a human, a friend, a buddy. Yeah,
and especially as you're starting out, I think you need support around you. If you're with any discipline in dentistry, I think you need support in the beginning to reinforce what you're learning and what you're practicing. It's really, really helpful.
It's the same thing. The people saving all their money on gauze and buying them online and hoping Amazon gets into the business. They don't get it. I remember when I got out of school, whenever I'd have an argument with my rep, Al Hughes, and say, "Well, Al, that won't work because of this or that or that," and he'd say, "All right, what time? When do you have an hour and a half?" And I'd say, "Okay, lunch right now today, lunch," and I'll back my next page on 1:30. And then he'd get in the car and he'd drive me to 4 offices to his buddies that were, I was a young, dumb, 24 punk kid, and he's introduced me to 40, 50, 60-year-old guys like, "No, Howard, this is how I've been doing it," and that's what was getting it done. So he could get the decision done in my walnut brain in 90 minutes because I had a human that I don't know how I would have done that, saving 12 cents on gauze, buying them online. I mean, it's always my rep Valerie. I mean, you can ask her an endo question and she'll say, "Okay, well, these endo file, here's the endodontist that used this endo file. Here's the endodontist that used this endo file." And then you can, well, you got the number to that guy. Yeah. The next thing you know, you're talking to some endodontist who's done, 10,000 molars with this system. I mean, it's just humans need humans.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So I only got you for 7 more minutes. Let's switch to endo because we talk a lot about implants, but endo, what's sexy about endo is that you don't have to sell it to the patient. They come in, they're in pain. Yeah. It's not like I'm trying to sell you a veneer case or Invisalign, and dentists just don't like to sell. They're not made for it. If what got you to the party was getting A's in math and physics and chemistry, you're probably not naturally hardwired for sales. Endo, they come in, they're asking, "Matt, will you fix me? Will you help me? And my insurance will pay 80%. And Matt, the bottom line is half the dentists out there won't do a molar endo. So talk to that kid. She's telling me that she's got $250,000 of student loans, but I'm looking at her productions like she refers out all of her endo to 4,000 endodontists. How does she go from, "I don't like blood and guts, I want to bitch about $250,000 in student loans, but I ain't doing molar endo because I don't like blood"? Talk to that woman.
Well, I mean, typically, I would assume that in that situation, you would probably have an ample amount of time on your hands. So if that's the case, I mean, would you rather sit around and do nothing, or would you rather sit around and try to get an endo accomplished? You can always prefer it if you're during the procedure, you just can't do it, and you're physically limited, and you have to refer it out. But I see no reason why you wouldn't at least try to expand your skills and try to get better, and try to at least pick some cases that are a little bit more manageable and try to do.
And what training would you recommend?
Training?
Yeah, education. If she wanted more endo education, what would you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, you could, some of the big names like Buchanan, some of these other, there are a lot of training facilities with endo where you can go and work on extracted teeth, look through them, look through scopes and stuff like that. I think just pick and choose, just go get something and start learning how to do it. I mean, a lot of them, there's overlap in pretty much any of the camps that you're in, regardless of who's training you. There's similarities. So you'll get where you're going just by picking one and trying to learn.
And I would also always recommend this, never forget that. That is, we all got into med school and dental school and law school because we sat in a library and didn't have a date or a girlfriend or a life, and we made straight A's. So they're all shy, conservative people. And every time it's counterintuitive. Success is extremely counterintuitive. So let's say you want to do endo, and you think in your small town, well, that would make the endodontist mad. Mm-hmm. Because the endodontist wants to do all the endo, and it's exactly wrong. If you call that endodontist, say, I can't do any endo. I want to learn how to do endo. Can I come and be your assistant, and will you teach me how to do endo? They just light up. I mean, everybody wants a friend, a dog, a cat. Humans all want friends. And then that endodontist probably thinking, well, right now you don't send me any. Mm-hmm. If you sat in my office for several afternoons on Friday and became my friend, I'm going to get something. I'd rather have something instead of nothing. All 9 specialties work like that way, except for, of course, orthodontist. We all know that. The oral surgeon assumes you'll pull the easy tooth and you'll send him the wisdom tooth. All I'm thinking. But the orthodontist, if you ask him how to just slightly rotate number 8, he'd probably have a stroke. The orthodontists don't want you to do any ortho.
Yeah, but the orthodontist is happy. I don't do any ortho.
Yeah. But they don't see the business model of send them all the hard stuff and you do the easy stuff. They just don't.
Any of the disciplines, you become a better referrer the more you know about it.
I know.
Some procedures you're gonna be better. Your diagnosing's better. So you end up just being a better general doc and a good referrer usually.
Yeah, all the serious people that look at the ortho education shows that the GPs who learn ortho, half of them they all start diagnosing more ortho. Mm-hmm. At least half of them quit doing it themselves after they've done it for a year or two. They just learned and moved on and realized they were more productive doing kind of bridge. But it's the diagnosing and the treatment planning. Yeah. And if you educate someone in diagnosing and treatment planning, they just become much better referrals. You got to think you can't go through life thinking in fear and scarcity. You have to go through life thinking in hope, growth, and abundancy. And if you want the best training on implantology, root canals, and just start calling a local person that you don't even know, because chances are he's going to be an introvert geek and wants a friend, and just say, can I come watch you? And they say yes almost every time. And then you get a relationship, you have a buddy, and then it just gets done. If you have a buddy that knows how to do this in your town, you're going to be doing it. And if you try to do this, this is why we started Dental Town. When I saw the internet, I was like, with the internet, no dentist should ever have to practice solo again. And if you get a buddy, you get a friend, and you start talking, it's going to get done. But if you're going to do it all by yourself while you're sitting in your closet, you can think about it for 40 years. It's never get done. Like I challenge this. If some dentist near you said, Matt, can I come by your office and watch you place an implant? What would you say?
Absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt.
And would you think that would be fun or stressful?
Fun more than anything. Yeah.
Yeah. And would you go out drinking before the implant placement surgery or after?
During.
You would drink. You would drink during the deal. That is just awesome. I think I'm going to fly out there to Quarryville myself. But hey, Matt, that's our hour, and I just want to sit there and say, seriously, 4,000 posts on Dental Town. I mean, god dang, that is just that is amazing. I mean, I just can't. And I didn't start Dental Town. Dental Town is only because guys like you. If there wasn't a bunch of guys like you posting all of that content, Dental Town would be. Google says there's 300 million websites, and every dental website I go to is just a flyer for some company. It's just I go to any website and it's just a flyer. I mean, it wouldn't matter if it was in my mailbox. But Dental Town is only special because guys like you have posted 4,000 times, and for that, dude, I just tip my hat from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for sharing so much, and you're doing it again, sharing another hour. And the reason I want to do you is because I just thought so many people would want to meet the man and the face and the voice behind all those posts.
Yeah. No, thanks for giving us a forum to share this stuff with.
All right, buddy. Well, you have a rocking hot day.
All right, Howard. You too. Talk to you soon.